Hello, everyone. This is Amanda Cleland, and we are continuing in supply chain management today with section 7, part 2 of materials management and handling. And we are going to start talking about packaging in this section. So we're really going to focus on packaging. So packaging is a very important materials management issue, and it's very closely tied to our efficiency and our effectiveness as an organization and as a supply chain in general. The best possible package out there is going to optimize service, it's going to optimize cost, it's going to optimize our convenience, and it's going to optimize sustainability. And good packaging has a very positive impact on firms in the supply chain and our customers. There's a lot of different kinds of packaging out there. Anything out there that's going to hold the item. So we've got an illustration here that just shows just an example of the packaging that you see every day in your consumer products. You see boxes, you see pouches, you see bags, you see bottles, you see tubes, you see cans, you see tins, you see cups, you see cartons. Again, you need that packaging in order to move, to consume the goods that you are buying. So different packaging materials are used for different packaging purposes. So we're going to talk about the 3 levels of packaging out there. So we're going to talk about primary, secondary, and tertiary. And you can see just an example in this illustration we've got here on this slide of the primary packaging, and that is most closely tied to the item itself. Then we're getting larger with our secondary packaging, and then tertiary packaging. You see the picture of the cardboard boxes on the pallet. So primary packaging. So this is the one closest to the product, the packaging that most closely touches a product, and it's very often referred to as the retail packaging. This is what the level of packaging that you are going to see when you go to a brick and mortar store and you see this item on the shelf. It is the first layer that contains the finished product. So it usually actually touches the product. And the main goal of primary packaging is to protect the product. We don't want it exposed to elements. We want to contain it. And we also want to inform or attract the customer. It's going to have a colorful label to it. It's going to tell you what's in the box, in the can, in the tin. And it makes the products look more appealing, and it can be used for communication purposes to convey printed material about the products to consumers. So you could have the nutrition facts, the ingredients, all the things about it. So an example of primary packaging. So breakfast cereal. Perhaps you had a bowl of cereal for breakfast this morning. An example of primary packaging for breakfast cereal for cornflakes is that plastic pouch that is holding the cereal, or even the cardboard box that contains the pouch of cereal. This is an example of the primary packaging. It actually physically touches the product in terms of the pouch. And this is what you are going to see in terms of the retail packaging when it is on the store shelf. So this is primary packaging, most closely touches the product and what you are going to see on that retail shelf. Then our next level up is secondary packaging. So secondary packaging, this is used to ship or to store products that are already in their primary packaging. Our cereal is already in its pouch, already in that first level of boxes. We are going to put it probably in a much larger box to ship or store it. It's also used to group products of the same stock keeping unit or SKU together. So you may see 100 boxes of cereal in this large cardboard box. And it also provides supplementary protection to help maintain the integrity of that primary packaging. It could also be customized to make a product very easily identifiable in the warehouse setting. Again, in a warehouse, the entire warehouse may be filled with just regular old brown cardboard boxes. So it could be customized so that the warehouse workers can identify just upon looking at the box, upon visual inspection, what it actually contains. So an example of secondary packaging, let's go back to our case of the cornflakes. The secondary packaging would be that corrugated cardboard box that contains multiple, 100 different individual boxes of cereal. Again, it's kind of that next level up that provides that secondary level of protection used to ship or store products that are already in their primary packaging. And then we've got tertiary packaging. This is most often referred to as bulk or transit packaging. And tertiary packaging is most often used to bulk transport and move secondary packaging. It makes it a lot easier to transport large or heavy loads safely, securely, and very quickly. And usually, as the final customer, you are never going to see the tertiary packaging. This is typically not seen by final customers. So an example of tertiary packaging you see in the upper right-hand corner of the slide here. I have a picture of what tertiary packaging might look like. So this could be a stretch wrap pallet. So that plastic stretch wrap is wrapped around all of these boxes of cereal containing a quantity of cardboard boxes, which are our secondary packagings, so that we can efficiently ship and move that product in bulk. So this is our tertiary packaging. So again, it goes from close touching the product to a little bit higher level and usually more in bulk. So again, another example of our primary, our secondary, and our tertiary packaging are in the terms of a cola bottle. The bottle itself that actually holds the cola would be the primary packaging. Then the secondary packaging, we have a 6-pack all wrapped in plastic on a corrugated cardboard base. That would be our secondary packaging. And then our tertiary packaging. That is used to ensure we can really move in bulk. We've got a large amount of individual items that are being moved, and you'll typically see this in the pallet form. So that's our tertiary packaging. So you can see the different levels of packaging. And packaging really serves two primary overall functions within our supply chain, and those are marketing and logistics. So this is very important. These are the two big functions that packaging serves within our supply chain: marketing and logistics. So what does this mean? So in the marketing function, the package provides customers with information about the product, like the direction on how to use it, the ingredients, what it's made from, or the components that are all contained in the product, perhaps where it was made, the identification of the product's manufacturer, who made the product, where did they make it, when did they make it, and the packaging can actually promote the product through color, through sizing, through photographs, through labels. So it could actually be a marketing tool that'll actually make you purchase it when you see it on that store shelf in a brick and mortar store. And marketing communications and graphic design are very often applied to the surface of the package and the point of sale display. So they'll make it bright, they'll make it colorful, they'll make it eye-catching. So you as a consumer are going to be drawn to it, and it's going to try to market you to buy it. Now, from a logistics perspective, the functions of the packaging are to organize it, to protect it, and to identify products and materials. So when packaging is performing these logistics function, the packaging takes up additional space and it adds weight. That's just part of what happens. When you put something in a box, when you wrap it up, it takes up space and it's going to weigh a little bit more or a lot more, depending on the type of packaging that you have. So industrial users of packaging really strive to gain advantages of packaging offers while trying to minimize that disadvantage of added space and weight, right? Because that added space and weight, that's going to cost us more in terms of transportation, in terms of warehousing costs. So we want to gain the advantages of packaging by organizing, protecting the product while minimizing those disadvantages of the additional costs that are brought on by the added weight and space of packaging. Within the general functions of packaging, which are those marketing and logistics functions we just discussed, there are several more specific functions. Again, marketing and logistics are the big picture kind of overall things that packaging performs, but there's more specific functions as well. So that includes containment, that includes protection, transportation, apportionment, convenience, and identification. We're going to go through each of these. So containment. Products must be contained before they can be moved from one place to another. So think about your orange soda. Got a picture here of a spilled orange soda. You need a can or some sort of packaging to actually contain the product, to keep that liquid in there so it can be delivered to you so you can enjoy your fizzy orange cola. If the packaging breaks open, the item could be damaged, it could be lost, or it could contribute to some sort of environmental pollution if it's a hazardous material and it seeps into water supplies or the ground. So this is a huge piece of what packaging does, is it actually contains the product in containment. And then we've got protection. So this is a huge piece of what packaging does. We want to protect the contents of the package from damage or from loss. The packaging must safeguard the goods from all these external factors out there that could hurt the product, could damage the product, that could try to take the product, and ensures that the products survive the handling portion during the transportation and storage phase. If you've ever ordered anything online and it shows up at your front door and the box is all beaten up and the product inside is broken, obviously this has failed the protection aspect of it. The product did not survive the handling during that transportation and storage phase. The packaging protects the enclosed object, so it encloses it and it protects it from other physical items within that transportation and storage journey, from shock, from vibration, from getting squished, from compression, from extreme temperatures, among all these other forces. And a lot of packages, theft is a big thing these days. Packages can also be improved with tamper resistance to deter tampering, and also can have tamper evident features to help indicate tampering. So even if something has been tampered with, we can see because maybe a seal has been broken. So we can ensure that theft or tampering does not take place. And then if it does, it's easily identifiable to us. Then we've got transportation. All products have to be moved at some point in their life cycle. It may be a short distance, it may be a very, very long distance, but all products have to be moved. So a very good packaging design enables easy handling, easy stowing, and easy stacking during this inevitable transportation process in a way that's going to maximize the space availability. And then we've got apportionment. So this is translating. This is when a factory makes 1,000 different widgets. We've got economies of scale. So we're processing and manufacturing in bulk. So apportionment translates that very large output of manufacturing into much smaller quantities that are going to be of greater use to customers. Now, Unilever, they make Dove soap, and they make it by the boatload. Now, you don't need 1 million bars of Dove soap. You just need 1 bar, maybe 2 bars. So this is another form, a function of packaging. It makes that large output of a manufacturer, and it takes it and places into smaller quantities that are of greater use to you as the customer. It results in a very manageable, desirable, and consumer-sized products. So partitioning large packages or bulk commodities into packages made for more suitable sizes for individual households is part of the apportionment function. And it also helps aid in inventory control. So we want to take all that big bulk and translate it into smaller sizes that are going to be more apt for that end consumer, for individuals and their households. And then we've got convenience. So we've probably all dealt with some sort of wrap rage, especially when you're dealing with like those clamshell type things. Perhaps you've gotten an injury from taking out the shears or the scissors trying to open something. So allowing products to be open and used with very little wasted effort by customers is something that we want to strive for in our packaging. We want them to be easily able to open it without a ton of frustration, without a ton of effort. So we want to ensure that it's convenient. We don't want it to be difficult for them. So wholesalers, retailers, and all these other supply chain middlemen also are going to demand convenience in packaging. They don't also want it to be cumbersome to them. It should be lightweight and it should be conveniently packed. So we want to ensure that our packaging is convenient for all users within the supply chain. And then identification. So we want to be able to identify what is in our packaging, what is the actual product that is inside of this container. So we want to use unambiguous, easily understand words, symbols, pictures. And again, if you're dealing with international, perhaps you need multiple languages, or you're going to rely more on pictures. And packaging also helps distinguish one brand from another brand. Typically, the package is going to contain the name of the product, at least the primary packaging, at least. It's going to contain the name of the product, the maker, the ingredients, the date of manufacture, perhaps if there's an expiration date. So we want to be able to identify what is going on inside of this packaging, the product itself, and be able to identify what it is. So this is another function of packaging. And the package should be designed to provide the most efficient storage. So good packaging interfaces well with whatever kind of materials handling equipment our organization uses, and also the material handling equipment of all of our supply chain partners. And good packaging allows efficient utilization of both storage and transportation space and takes into account any weight constraints we have. We don't want to use incredibly heavy packaging when we know that there are going to be weight constraints for the storage, for the materials handling, for the transportation methods we're using. So IKEA, if you've ever been to an IKEA store, they're well known for their labyrinth maze that takes place in their store, and they also have very good meatballs. But they are a Swedish manufacturer of furniture, and probably you may have some IKEA furniture back in your dorm room. So they have really streamlined packaging as a competitive advantage for many, many years. And you're probably thinking, how have they used packaging as one of their competitive advantages? So the vast majority, if you've ever bought IKEA furniture, you know that you have to do kind of a lot of legwork. The majority of their products are going to show up at your front door, completely disassembled. So the items can be shipped in these much smaller packages. And the onus is on the end consumer to then put it all together. So this improves by sending all of their items completely disassembled. This improves space utilization in their warehouses, in the transportation equipment they use, and it maximizes the number of products that the IKEA retail stores can hold. The consumer then purchases, again, they're good quality products, but again, the consumer then has to assemble them. So, and a lot of consumers, they're willing to do this. The success of IKEA suggests that the customer is more willing to assume that responsibility of assembling the furniture if it's going to cost them less because there's decreased shipping, decreased transportation costs. So again, IKEA uses streamlined packaging as part of their competitive advantage over their competitors. So let's talk about pallets. We talked a little bit about the invention of pallets in the 1920s, but products, and if you're doing anything in a warehouse environment, anything to do with transportation, with supply chain, you are most definitely going to see pallets. So products are received, stored, and shipped from warehouses are very, very often placed on pallets. And a pallet, again, you see I've got an illustration here of a wooden pallet is a type of tertiary packaging. Pallets help companies consolidate goods onto this single movable foundation while also protecting these goods and supporting easier materials handling. It's easier to move them using this movable foundation known as a pallet. It is estimated that there are 2 billion pallets that are in use every single day throughout the United States. 2 billion. And the most common form of pallet is wood pallets. These are by far the most common are wood pallets. It's estimated that pallet production accounts for actually 1/3 of all hardwood lumber produced in the US. So all of the lumber, all of the wood, a third of it is estimated to go straight into pallet production. However, there's other types of materials that pallets can be made of. There are plastic pallets, there are metal pallets, there are actually corrugated paperboard, cardboard pallets that are out there. So let's talk about the other kinds of pallets besides the most common, which are wood. So steel pallets are the strongest. So I've got a picture here of a steel pallet. These are used for very heavy loads, or perhaps things are stacked very high, so they become very heavy because they are stacked so high. They're also used for long-term dry storage and loads that are moved by very abusive logistic systems that are going to be really, really rough on the product. Very often, these are used for military ammunition. And again, metal pellets are pretty rare out there. They're only used in a small minority of situations. And metal pallets make up less than 1% of the market of all the pallets out there. And pallets were really first used in the 1900s, but they really weren't widely adopted until World War II. They became really valuable tools to meet the demand for increased material handling speed during the war effort. So a lot of things having to do with supply chain and with businesses. You really saw this uptick in usage during World War II because of the dire need for things, the need to get things quickly, efficiently. So we really saw the increased use of pallets starting in really World War II. So organizations use pallets for unloading and loading. They typically have much lower costs for handling and storage compared to organizations that do not use pallets. Organizations that use pallets also have faster material movement than businesses who don't. So again, it's a good thing to utilize pallets. And pallets can be owned by a company, or they can be rented or leased from a third-party pallet provider such as CHEP or IGPS. And the standard US pallet is 48 by 40, and this was developed in 1976 by the Grocery Manufacturers Association, also known as GMA. So that is pretty much the standard US size is 48 by 40, and very similar to the barcode. Grocery retailers and manufacturers kind of set this into place. However, pallets can vary significantly in size, especially when we're looking globally. We've got varying international standards. So, for example, in Europe, the Euro pallet and also the US military. The US military uses a different standard than the typical US pallet. So their pallets are 35 by 45.5 inches. That is the dimensions of a Euro pallet and the size of pallets that the US military uses. And the standard US pallet is 48 by 40. And it does not fit through a standard doorway. So you can see how that could be cumbersome. And if every different country or different regions of the world are all using different size pallets, it makes it a little tricky when you're dealing in international trade. So there is no set standard internationally in terms of the size of pallets. So the International Organization for Standardization, or ISO, has approved 6 different pallet sizes. So we don't have one, but we do have 6 at least. So when items are being handled within a specific country or regions, pallets usually are about the same size, so there really aren't any issues. If you're working domestically in the United States or you're working in North America with Canada and Mexico trading, pallets are usually probably going to be about the same size, so there really aren't going to be any issues. However, the differing sizes can cause problems in storage and transportation when dealing internationally, especially if you're dealing with international trade of countries that aren't really in the same vicinity of each other. And this lack of a single international standard for pallets really causes substantial cost in international trade because we just don't have a standardization. So the differing pallet sizes make it much more difficult because all of the materials handling equipment, the pallet jacks, the forklifts, the space that warehouses utilize are not standardized across the board. So again, we've talked considerably about trade-offs in supply chain management. There are going to be trade-offs in packaging as well. So we've got to calculate the trade-offs in our packaging decisions. Very important. So let's take example of pallet type in an example of a trade-off decision we may have to make. So currently we know the vast majority of pallets out there are wood, and the weight of a wood pallet is approximately 50 pounds each. So it's a relatively heavy method in terms of the tertiary packaging. So when we're looking at trade-offs, could we use a lighter corrugate pallet instead, essentially a cardboard pallet? Is that something we could do? So let's talk a little bit about corrugated pallets. Sometimes they're called paper pallets, cardboard pallets, or eco pallets. These are often used for light loads. And they're becoming, there's all these crazy things that they can do with engineering. So if you properly engineer a paper pallet, they're being used increasingly more for loads in terms of the same size that you would use for wood. And they're also easy to recycle and easy to dispose of. So this is really important, especially when we're looking at from a sustainability standpoint. So again, we could use a very heavy wood pallet, or we could use a much lighter corrugated pallet. But again, we're going to have trade-offs going on each side. So new designs of corrugated pallets can weigh less than 10 pounds. This is 1/5 of what a wood pallet weighs. So that's going to be significant savings on our transportation costs. And if our corrugated pallets could be substituted for wood pallets, an estimated 400 billion fewer pounds of weight would result. Again, if we were just to replace all of our existing wood pallets with corrugated pallets, 400 billion fewer pounds of weight would be in the transportation system. And that means cost savings for us. Again, transportation is very important, very expensive. Fuel is very expensive. If we can make things considerably lighter, that's going to be cheaper for us as an organization, cheaper for our end customer, cheaper for all the players in the supply chain. So why don't we move all to corrugated pallets? It seems like an easy decision, right? Again, there's always going to be trade-offs. So corrugated pallets really lack durability. Think about a cardboard box. You cannot get it wet. It loses most, if not all, of its structural integrity if the pallet becomes moist. So if it gets exposed to the elements, if it's exposed to rain, to snow, we wouldn't be able to store a corrugated pallet anywhere because we need to protect it from these types of elements. And cardboard pallets are also very porous. They can never be cleaned or sanitized. So any kind of goop or anything that gets it dirty, it's going to seep into the pores of that material, and we really can't clean it like we could with other types of products. So again, we've got some big trade-offs here. So prior to 2009, we're going to talk about IKEA again. IKEA does a great job with packaging. So prior to 2009, IKEA, like most retailers and players in the supply chain, they used almost exclusively wood pallets. Now, the company directs all of its suppliers to ship on these lightweight recyclable corrugated pallets. So by not shipping more than 1.4 billion pounds of pallets, again, if they were to instead use wood, the weight has saved them, or the weight reduction of using corrugated pallets has saved IKEA billions of dollars and has a huge reduction in CO2 emissions. Again, we want to look at this from a sustainability perspective as well. So IKEA is now really pushing the corrugated cardboard pallets as opposed to wood pallets. So they try to push their suppliers to utilize these instead of wood. And packaging trade-offs have frequently been really ignored or downplayed in decision making. Packaging does really impact cost to the organization and consumer service levels. If there's empty space in the package, again, you order something from Amazon, you order some little bitty product, and it shows up in this huge giant box with all this packaging around it. It's possible that that package could have been downsized, or even we could have modified the dimensions to reduce that packaging material, right? It's going to cost Amazon less if they use smaller boxes, less packaging, and it's going to be a lot less environmental waste. And sometimes very simple packaging decisions can have significant results in terms of cost reductions and also benefits to the environment as well. So some specific examples of cost savings or customer improvements resulting from modification to packaging include a frozen food supplier. They saved $3 million, and a baked good company, they saved $1 million on annual freight by simply redesigning their packaging a little bit better so it actually fit in the US standard pallets. Again, by making very simple changes to the packaging so it was better able to fit, they were able to save all that money. Both were able to put more product on a single pallet, and they were able to get more pallets in each truck, and thus greatly reducing the number of truckloads required. Another example, a pharmaceutical company, they reduced their freight costs for one of their product lines by 25%, by 1/4, by reducing the amount of packaging used. They just had too much packaging going on, and they didn't compromise the product protection. Again, they were able to save on their freight costs by 25% just by getting rid of redundant packaging that they didn't need in the first place. So let's talk about sustainability and sustainable packaging. So although our cost and service issues are usually the most important factors that we want to consider in packaging, there are also sustainability issues that we want to consider as well. So packaging has become a much more visible issue this day and age with kind of the current environmental and sustainability concerns related to recycling and reuse of packaging. Packaging has really become the front and center in a lot of organizations' supply chain strategies due to global concerns over things like excessive waste, landfills, global warming, deforestation, and the disposal of hazardous and non-hazardous materials, among many other things having to do with the environment. So consumers, society are really concerned about sustainability, and specifically sustainability as it relates to packaging. And what sustainability means, you've probably seen this word a lot, but I'll give you the formal definition. This is the ability to maintain or support a process continuously over time. So what that means is we want to be able for our earth, our natural resources to continue to operate sustainably for centuries, for millennia. We don't want to destroy our environment, destroy our earth, destroy these natural resources. So the most widely accepted definition of what sustainable packaging is was offered by an organization called the Sustainable Packaging Coalition. And they say that sustainable packaging is a beneficial, safe, and healthy for individuals and communities throughout its entire life cycle, is sourced, manufactured, transported, and recycled using renewable energy, is physically designed to optimize material and energy, and is effectively recovered and utilized in biological industrial closed loop cycles. So this is a decent definition of sustainable packaging. So an example of sustainable packaging. So in 2018, McDonald's announced that it had established a 100% sustainable packaging goal for 2025. And again, we all know McDonald's, we all know the Golden Arches, the most popular fast food chain in the United States. So this means that all McDonald's customer packaging, from the Big Mac box to the fry container to the bag that you receive your food in to the McFlurry cup and straw, this means that all these different types of McDonald's customer packaging would come from renewable, recycled, or certified sources. So as of 2018, only 50% of the consumer packaging came from sustainable sources, and only 10%, believe it or not, only 10% of the McDonald's restaurants were actually recycling. So McDonald's said that it was making this move in response to customer demand, right? This is what the customers want. This is what the general public wants. And we in general have seen more of a desire to help reduce waste and have that positive community impact. So McDonald's says it plans to work with local governments, local environmental associations on things like better packaging designs, new recycling programs, and both employee and customer education plans to actually reach those goals. Again, their goal is by 2025. We'll see how close they come to actually getting there, because we are closing in very soon on 2025. And let's talk about another big company out there, Amazon. So in environmental circles, Amazon has recently really come under fire for its use of single-use plastics in Amazon's packaging. So single-use plastics, very few plastics are recyclable, and even those that are recyclable, even if they're collected for recycling, most are not actually recycled. So environmental activists, because of the nature of single-use plastics, environmental activists are really pushing for Amazon to ditch all of the single-use packaging and transition to reusable types of packaging. In an effort to pack more shipments into planes, trains, trucks, Amazon is really using more small plastic mailers rather than cardboard boxes. Again, a cardboard box is turgid, it takes up a lot of space, but plastic bags are more malleable. You can fit a lot more plastic bags with small items, especially like apparel type items, fabric types items, into a truck, into a plane. So a lot of Amazon packaging includes plastic film, which makes recycling either impossible, or if it's not impossible, it's very, very difficult. So I've just got some examples of all the different levels of packaging that Amazon utilizes that has single-use plastic in it. So you've got the air pillow here all the way on the left. This is kind of like that plastic, especially if you get things in a box and it needs a little bit of cushioning. Amazon doesn't use packing peanuts. They typically use these air pillows, which are made out of single-use plastics. And then they've got their bubble-lined plastic bags here, the one that's in blue. It's got a little bit of bubble in it to slightly protect whatever good is in there. And then they've got their good old plastic bag. And then they've also got their bubble-lined paper mailer. So from the outside, you would think this manila colored envelope would be recyclable. It looks like it is plastic, but because it is bubble lined, it's got that single-use plastic in it that makes it so you can't recycle it. So they've got a lot of different single-use plastic in their packaging materials, which again, environmentalists and many consumers do not like. So in response to this, Amazon has launched different sustainability programs around packaging. So Per the Amazon website, they claim that since 2005, we've invested in materials, processes, and technologies that have reduced per shipment packaging weight by 38% and eliminated over 1.5 million tons of packaging. So they're saying that they've gotten the weight down so that they, in terms of the packaging, so they've eliminated that. And you see down here at the bottom, this is a breakdown of Amazon Fulfillment Center's packaging as of 2021. So 43% of all of their shipments come in corrugated boxes. And that's good, right? Because corrugated cardboard boxes are recyclable. They're very easily recyclable. And then 49% of their shipments are in what they call flexibles. These are the ones that people are not too keen on. They typically have single-use plastics in it, like their padded mailer, their flexible mailers. They do have some flexibles that are completely cardboard, corrugated, but most of them have single-use plastic. So that's almost half of all of their packaging. And then they have 8% of their shipments have no Amazon packaging. They are literally just putting in the mail the manufacturer or the distributor packaging itself, and Amazon does not put an additional level of packaging over that. So you can see about half of their shipments in terms of the flexibles do have that single-use plastic in them. So what is involved in designing an optimal package? So in designing the optimal package, we want to optimize service, we want to optimize cost, and we want to optimize customer convenience. And good packaging begins with the design of the product, and it's going to end with the reuse or the disposal of the package. So you've got to figure out what is best. One thing to think about with Amazon is a lot of their packaging, especially their flexible mailers, which you can see here at the bottom. A lot of times, if you are receiving a package in a flexible mailer, you can reuse this. They make it so that when you tear it open, if you want to make a return of that item, you can use that same exact packaging to send in the return. So that is something that Amazon does well in terms of their flexible mailers, is that you can reuse that packaging for your return. And Amazon does see a decent amount of returns. So that is one thing that Amazon does very good. So factors that govern good package design includes things like standardization. We want to have the same throughout all of our different products. We've got to look at the pricing or the cost of it. We want to look at the adaptability of it, the protective level, the handling ability, the packability, and the sustainability. So the importance that a company places on each of these different factors, as well as, of course, all those cost service trade-offs, is going to vary by the company. It's going to vary by the industry. It's going to vary by the product that they have. It's going to vary by the supply chain. It's going to vary by the geographic location. So there's not one set good package design across the board. It's really going to vary based on a multitude of different variables. So companies have to take into account the differences in products, the differences in cost, the differences in physical characteristics of that product when deciding on the packaging. So a food company that manufactures food, they're more concerned about having a package that's going to minimize shipping and storage costs. Very thin margins on here. They want to minimize the shipping and storage costs as much as possible. Now, on the other hand, a computer manufacturer, you buy a laptop, you buy a personal computer in the mail, you want to emphasize the protective aspects of packaging because it's a very fragile good and it's very expensive. So you want to make sure that this thing is really wrapped up tight and protected from all possible elements and theft when it's in that packaging. So these types of products would really focus on the protective aspects of packaging as opposed to trying to minimize costs like a food manufacturer would. Another example would be a company that recently completed a construction of a fully automated warehouse. Now, we know that automation can be very expensive. So, such a facility, their concern would be with package handling ability, cube utilization, and the ability to convey information in a way that could be read by the equipment. So again, it really depends on what's going on with the company. What type of product that you're using would be the ideal packaging. However, a company that's doing business in the European Union would be very concerned with environmental and sustainable aspects of packaging due to the very strict environmental laws there. So I used to live in Germany for a few years, and they are much more diligent, much more strict about their waste, about their recycling. I had about 5 different garbage cans for all of the different waste that I personally produced. And a lot of companies could have heavy fines if they don't follow this, or they don't follow rules or laws about sustainable packaging. So if you're operating in the EU, you may be much more concerned about the sustainability aspects of your packaging than other aspects. So the packaging decision is truly one that requires a total systems approach in order to understand that total cost picture. So packaging should be designed to provide the supply chain with optimal levels of service, efficiency, and effectiveness. And the firms that are in the supply chain that give packaging sufficient attention, they're going to find that there can be very significant and positive impacts. So that is it for part 2 of section 8 on materials handling. And we will continue with the next chapter shortly. Thank you very much.